Hold on, wait. Let me put my headphones. Hold on.
We're live. Hello. I wasn't gonna do this today, guys, but you gotta push through it, okay? I was feeling a little lazy, but you gotta keep it pushing. And welcome to the live, everybody. How y'all doing tonight? So we're gonna get right into it. So, Strange World. So first of all, the movie flopped in the box office. Okay. And it flopped. Like it was a big disappointment, it was a big flop. And I want to talk about it. Let's talk about it because this was the supposed to be the first biracial Disney character. You know, he has a white dad and a black mother. And I was really excited about it initially. I was like, wow, we're going to have a little moment, right? And then next thing you know, it was turned into the first gay character all of a sudden. And that kind of overshadowed like his biracial identity. And I was like, wow, I was disappointed by that. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna address this and I'm gonna get into why. And let me talk about what I liked about the movie. So, what I did like about the movie, it it had a cute representation of like interracial couples, heterosexual couples, like the mother and the dad, like they were very loving and cute, and they were a beautiful like couple and everything, and they were super cute, right? And so the grandfather, right, he's supposed to represent like super masculine traditionals, like he's very masculine. He's like this rugged explorer, and he's just like, you know, trying to teach his son like to be like him and everything like that, right? And then he gets lost, and then they ended up finding him. But of course, like the son, he doesn't want to be anything like his dad, right? So, and then he has his son, and then but I think that the it was cute in the beginning. It started out so cute, right? But then like the gay representation started coming through a little bit. And I want to tell y'all why I was a little bit disappointed in it, right? I'm gonna address this. I think we need to address the LGBTQ community tonight. Like that is my main focus tonight, honestly. That's my main thing that I want to do. Hello, everybody. Hello. And I want to say that it wasn't that bad. It's always like it wasn't that bad. I thought like the whole movie was gonna be about him just like trying to chase after some guy, and it was like going to be the main focus, and then that his like biracial identity wasn't going to be mentioned, or it wasn't that bad. But my husband, I asked my husband was like, no, I'm still not going to let my kids watch it, honestly. So that's his decision. I respect his decision, and I'm like, yeah. So what's why I was disappointed, to be honest, because we don't get representation of like biracial couples. We get interracially couples, we get those type of representations a lot. But when it comes to their offspring, we don't really get that type of representation in movies whatsoever. Never. Like one time I seen it in the Feast of All Saints, we seen like biracial mulatto couples coming together. Like literally one movie, literally one out of millions and millions, millions and millions and millions, right? So that's why I was disappointed. And of course, I'm happy for the gay LGBTQ mulatto biracial people who felt validated through that movie. It's like, okay, that's cool, that's fine. But I felt disappointed, and I felt like it was a loss for us. It was a win for them, but it was a loss for us, even though I feel like we deserve that though. We need that. Like our community, honestly, I wouldn't let my children watch it. I know, right? Tell it like it is, and ma'am, don't hold back. Okay, let's keep it a buck tonight. Yes. So us as a community, I feel like we're being exploited by the LGBT community. Okay. I feel like we were exploited. Our identity is still so vulnerable. Like we don't really we're trying to form a community. And to form that, we need numbers, honestly. We need straight people coming together, creating children. In order we're not gonna have we need families, honestly. We need to have that healthy family structure in place before we could even have our own community, right? So that's why it's like it was damaging to us, because it's like, of course, gay people exist. I don't know issue, no problem with that. That's fine. But people trying to force like their ideology onto us, that's what I have an issue with. Like we can't do that as a community. Like we are too vulnerable in a state. Black people, they have hella numbers. White people, they got so many people, they're already here. Like they've already created this huge population, so it's not going to affect them as much. But us, we barely come together in a relationship. So we needed that type of like straight representation. That would have been so helpful to our community. But they're not really caring about what our community needs, or it's all about pushing their own ideologies onto us. And it's like it's not okay, especially to children, because of course some people are just naturally gay, without media influence and all this. That's cool, but a lot of children are being influenced by media into that type of lifestyle, and that's not okay, and that's going to hurt our community even more. Exactly, I agree with this. Disney dropped the ball with this movie, and I want y'all to know, any community could be criticized, okay? I don't care. I don't play that whole you hate this community and you're just hateful and homophobic if you criticize anybody. Like, that's the dumbest shit ever, okay? We're not going to play that shit. Like, any community, I criticize every single community. Everybody, our community we criticize our own community. Does that mean I hate my own community? No, absolutely not. Like, that's the most dumbest thing. People can't take criticism, so they want to say that you hate them. Like, that doesn't make any sense, okay? I'm going to just keep it a buck and just, I don't hate nobody of no communities, but I will criticize if I feel like something's hurting my community. Okay, I will speak up on it. So let's see. I wouldn't promote it because of the LGBTQ aspect. The issue with it is, it was like this was our first. I don't really care for Disney, anyways. Honestly, like, I'm not really a big. I feel like Disney does like a lot of. It's hurt straight relationships a lot because the whole Disney programming and like the thinking everything's supposed to be happily ever after you get married. Like, that's a fantasy. Like, that's something that messes up a lot of like straight relationships, honestly. Thinking, oh, if anything goes wrong, that means, it's not a perfect relationship. Then that's a fallacy. That messes up people's relationships. If you don't get out of that Disney programming, that can mess you up. So Disney programming is real. Okay. When it comes to children and thinking this is how life should be, that's something that's real. Okay. That's something that's real. That's why I keep saying I hope we can strive for merit. Exactly, exactly. We need to support people who are trying to push that, because that's what our community needs the most. We need like couples coming together. Without that, we don't really have a community. We can't build a culture. We can't do anything if we don't really have, you know, the family intact. Like, the family is always the basis for everything. Okay, a family, the mother, father, children. That's the family that we need to like get intact first and foremost. Okay, this is why, yes, Magic. Then it needed for LGBT. Our first mulatto movie, period. Exactly, exactly, man. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, we, we should have been represented first. I'm sorry, we should have, because we're the ones who create the people. In order to, you couldn't even be here without a straight person creating you. Okay, I'm sorry. That's the facts. That's the facts. Yeah, there's like what, surrogate and test tubes or whatever, all that stuff. It still took sperm and an egg for you to be here. So we should have been, so we could create more people and have our own culture and community. That's what we need most of all. That's why, let's say, that's why their agenda is against biracial men, so we don't procreate. Exactly. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. I agree with that. Yes, Disney is so influential in our culture. They should have kept this movie non-controversial. Man, they dropped the ball with this one. I ain't gonna lie. I wasn't. And let's talk about, okay. So in the movie, the grandpa, he gets lost in the world, right? He gets lost in like the little underworld, and then they go and find him. And then it's like he meets his grandson for the first time, and it's like he's just so like automatically just so accepting, just like, oh yeah, hey, it's my grandson. And he started talking, oh yeah, this is how you get a man, this is how you get a fellow, this is how, this is what you have to do to try to impress the fellow, because he was started talking about his grandson. Like, he was like, the grandfather asked him, oh, do you have any sweethearts or anything? And then he was like, oh well, there is this one guy that I like. And all of a sudden he's like, well, this is how you get a fellow. Like, that's so unrealistic. Like, to have like, this is what they want to promote, like, it's like, this super traditional masculine men, and it's like they're automatically just gonna be so accepting of like, it's not like, that's not real life. Like, this is like the type of version fantasy they try to sell people. Like, that's nothing our experience. Like, we deal with, it just didn't speak to our it's like this whole fantasy of like, oh, these beautiful loving interracial couples that are just so perfect, and that everybody's so accepting of us and we don't have no issues or anything. It's just, that's not our reality. Like, this was not our story at all. Like, this was just, it didn't incorporate anything of our struggles or anything. It was nothing whatsoever. Like, it was like all fake. It was fake, man. It's supposed to be fake, it's fantasy, it's a movie, of course. But at the same time, stories are supposed to have some type of meaning and lesson that we could actually like use and incorporate in our real life. That's supposed to be the whole lesson of it, right? But there was just nothing that you could really take away and use. And as like, we don't get stories like that. We don't get stories that speak on our experiences. Really, we don't get movies. We don't really get books. We don't really get anything that really speaks to our experiences. Honestly, like we just have to, and then we barely even talk to each other. We don't have a community to really talk to each other about things too. On top of that, so it's like it's a double whammy for us basically, and it could lead to a lot of mental health issues. So that's why it's so important for us to have our own community and our own spaces so we can start creating our own stories, our own books, our own movies, our own things that we could relate to and that we could. Just so I'm clear, they make the Euro Afro character effeminate and flamboyant. Just ask, yes. I think he's more of like the top, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Because I think the guy, like his boyfriend, was more like the flamboyant one. But I think he was like Hispanic too, to be honest. So it was a lot. It was a lot. But I want to see more families like mine represented, honestly. Like I don't ever really get to see like me and my husband are both mulatto. I don't see that in media ever. It's like we don't even exist. And you know what the movie kind of underlying message kind of felt like to me? It's like once your kids become biracial, that's like the end of the bloodline, basically. Like he's biracial and gay, it's like that's the end of it. Like there's no more children to come. Like you're killing off your that felt like it was like a sneak diss to me, honestly. If that's wrong, I don't know, but hey y'all, hey James. Did you see how they portrayed North Africans in Aladdin? Oh, I haven't. What does this mean? Why are you always mentioning coconut? Am I a coconut? Is that like white on the inside, black on the outside? Like, what is that? What is that? But yeah, I really just wanted to express myself and how I felt. I do think that we need to speak up more, especially to the LGBTQ. They're more of a powerful community than us, okay? And they could easily exploit us. Okay, we need to really be vigilant about that because we need to have healthy boundaries with them. Like, no, you're not going to push your ideologies onto us. We need to have build our own culture. We need to promote straight couples so we can actually have a community and culture. We need this. We need other things. We don't really need that type of stuff right now. If people want to do that, like that's them. That's cool. Like, but we can't force. That's happening a lot nowadays. Like people are trying to, and we're not going to be gaslight and say it's not. Okay, we're not going to sit here and pretend like this is not going on. This is not what's really going on in front of our faces. Like a lot of people like to gaslight us and be like, oh, but no, this is what's going on in schools. This is what's going on in media. This is what's going on everywhere. And we can't afford that in our community. I'm sorry. We just can't. We have to have some boundaries in place and be like, no, we got to start speaking. All these groups are more powerful than black people, white people, LGBTQ. We're a tiny little, barely starting out community, okay? So we really got to be really strong and make sure, hey, this we got to set some really strong boundaries and be like, no, we can't tolerate this type of. I'm sorry, there's some things we can't tolerate in life. Okay, there's some things we can't. When it comes to, it's not that we can't tolerate gay people. Like gay people are gonna be gay. That's cool. Who cares, right? That's the thing. We can't tolerate. This is what I'm be very clear about. We can't tolerate people trying to push their ideologies onto us. Okay, when we can't tolerate that type of stuff. Like we can't sit here and be like, oh, there's no gender and there's no this and there's no this and there's no this. There's we can't do that. Like no, we need to have, we need the men to be masculine. We need the women to be. We need to have like those strong. We need to have those strong so we could have families. Like that's what we need. Like, we need to fight for families right now, and all this stuff in the media that's trying to push us otherwise is not helping us. Okay, it's not helping us. All right, all right. Many of us do hold conservative values and viewpoints, including myself. I don't even really consider myself a conservative. I feel like I try to like on all things as a mulatto, I always try to take both the best of both, and I take the best of both. Okay. I don't really identify more as conservative or a liberal. Like here's what I do. I agree with liberals when it comes to let's not discriminate, let's not bully people, let's not sit here and let's not do that, obviously, right? I don't believe I teach my children like we're not gonna discriminate, we're not gonna bully, we're not gonna do none of that, we're not gonna no matter your skin color, if you're gay, I don't believe in dehumanizing people, I don't believe in bullying people, I don't believe in shaming. I mean there's a healthy type of shame, we'll get into that later, but I don't believe in sitting here discriminating and making people feel bad about if they're no matter what they look like, their skin color, if they're gay, trans, whatever. I'm not gonna disrespect you for how you are born, for how you are. Okay, like I agree with that. That's as far as that goes, really, honestly. But on the like the conservative side, I'm more like, yes, I do believe in like traditional values and like working hard and making sure your family's good. And I do believe in that. Like those are the two values that I feel like go hand in hand. Those are my two values. Like let's not discriminate and let's keep the traditional values and family intact. Like that's something I'm really all about. So want to drop a link. Yeah, you guys want to come up here? I would love to hear you guys' opinion on. I watched it for free on 123 movies, so you don't gotta pay no money. So anybody want to come up here? Not Lightyear. I didn't get to watch that movie. Oh my god. Yep, don't push your ideologies onto our community. Exactly, exactly, exactly. I'm starting to get the vibe that someone's trying to portray Euro African as effeminate and flamboyant. Yes, they have been. They have been. So that Euro women get turned on. Exactly. Facts. That's all it is. And that's destroying our communities. It's destroying our communities. We need the men to be respected in our communities so that the women are attracted to them so that we can create families. Like that's what we need. We need that. I don't think it's not our only our community. They do this in the black community. It happens in the white community. It happens everywhere. So it's something that's affecting us. Like it's something we all need to stand up against. Be like, no, we're not going to sit here and. Hi, Jose. How you doing? I agree with Magic. I agree with
Good
both parties.
evening, Magic. Thank you for allowing
Exactly.
me on your platform.
Of course. What do you think about this topic? So I'm just trying to spread some awareness about hey, we need our culture to be very family oriented. I want our culture to be very family oriented. I want the women to respect the men to respect the women. We can have respect for each other. I don't want us disrespecting gay people, of course. Like I'm not going to sit here and disrespect people if they're gay. Like I'm not going to do that obviously. I don't believe in that. Hi, welcome to the stream. But I do think they need to respect us.
Well,
Like it needs to be
first
a
of
two-way
all,
street. Gay people need to respect us. We need to respect them. Like it can't be just, oh, you have to bow down and do everything I say because I have more power and control over it and I can cancel you at any time. And we just have to bow down and be like, oh, okay, we gotta bow down to you now, or we're gonna get canceled. Like that's not respect there. Like it's like a domineering relationship. Like no, we need to have respect for each other. Like I respect your culture, your ways, and who you are. I would never go out my way to disrespect anybody that's gay or anything. But you guys need to do the same for us. Like okay, if we want to be straight and have traditional values and want to be represented and want to be, we need that same type of respect, right? So that's all it boils down to me. Hi,
um,
millennial. Oh, go ahead, Jose. My bad.
yeah, one thing we have to bear in mind: not all the members of the LGBTQ community is the same way.
Absolutely
However,
not.
we have,
Absolutely good point.
we have to respect the fact that there is a very militant minority that tries to impose their views and their values on everybody else. Okay. Now, I do have a lot of disagreements regarding the LGBTQ community. Nevertheless, everyone should be free to live their life as they see fit. And when you think about it, I mean, the community have multiple platforms, multiple forms of media to express their views and their values and what have you. Unfortunately, when it comes to um, mulattoes and other subgroups, they don't have the same privileges and they must be allowed to develop their own platforms, their own sphere of influences, and to project themselves as they see fit.
Absolutely. And I want to say this too, real quick. I want to invite, hey Aunt, how you doing? Hi,
Hey, what's up?
millennial mulatto. Welcome to my channel. I've never had you on my channel before, so thank you for popping up. I appreciate you. But I want to say this. I'm gonna let you guys
We're
speak your
actually
opinion
best
on me.
friends, so you know who I am.
Oh my god, you changed your name.
This
I
is
really
actually my
see your
second
name.
channel I just
Oh,
created.
that's what's up. Okay, cool. Okay,
Yep,
perfect. I
going
like
into
it.
a
I
new
like it.
direction, but
I like the name. That's what's up. Okay, so I do want to speak on it's people. It's not just regular everyday people mostly. I think it's people in power. It's LGBT people who are in positions of power, abusing their power and trying to just force things on people that are just like who are don't consent to it. Like, hey, we don't really want this or consent to it. So it's wrong to force things on people who don't consent to it. It's about consent, right? It's about hey, if I want this, okay, but kids can't consent to things. Okay, kids can't be like, hey, yeah, yeah, like it's some. So that's my issue. It's just people in positions of power that are abusing their power and trying to spread their ideology to children who can't consent to see if that's my issue. And it's up to parents. Like we got to sit here and be like, hey, is this okay? It's up to us. So yeah, I would like to go ahead, Anthony. What would or George, what y'all got to say about this?
I mean, I didn't watch the movie yet, but I don't know if I'm gonna watch it. How was the movie? Like, I didn't hear
I
your
liked it
response on it.
honestly. Like I did like it. Like I did like it, but I know this kind of hurts our image when it comes to children. Like children are gonna watch this and be like, yeah, like if I just know for a fact if it would have been like just like the parents, they were a loving, beautiful straight couple. If it would have had like a beautiful, loving, like biracial couple together or like mulatto couple together, that would have been so good for us. Like that would have been like wow, like that would have been beautiful. Like I would have totally just I just know that would have been so good for us, and that we didn't get that. It's like dang, like I don't know, it's just disappointing, honestly. That's how I felt honestly with it. But I liked the movie in general. I thought it was cute. I thought it was, it was a, but I just
I
know
heard it
we should
So,
flopped.
like,
competition.
hey, how's it going, Anthony? Hey,
Hey, what's up? What's up, Don
Hey, how you
Armando?
doing?
hey, good.
Yeah, I never seen this movie, but I don't even know what it's even about, tell you the truth.
Oh, it's about okay. I'll give you like a little review. Let me try. So the movie's about this explorer family, right? There's the grandfather, the dad, and then the son, who is biracial. The mother's black, and
All right.
so so they're like an explorer family, right? So the
So
grandfather. Oh wait, go ahead. But the
are they
grandfather.
are the characters of mixed heritage?
No, the grandfather and the dad are white, right?
All right.
And then
Nah, because I
the
was just saying, because with the skin tones or whatever, they do look mixed. That's all I was asking.
yep, no, the mom is black. She's voiced by Gabrielle Union. And Gabrielle Union has a LGBTQ son, and she was defending the movie. She was saying, "Hey, this is reality. Some people are gay," and I agree with that. It's like, of course, some people are gay, right?
All
I
right,
don't.
but technically, that's not her son, really.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's
that's her
just her
stepson. That's
that's just her
Dwayne's son.
stepson.
That's
I
Dwayne's son.
mean,
Yep.
yeah, because the thing is though, it's like, all right, um, I don't know. I'm not gonna go around and say about that community, but I guess that Dale or whatever, you know, the individual want to be called has a quote unquote boyfriend, which used to be a girl. So I don't know how that's working out. So you know, I
Yep.
just need it in the grapevines. But to
Hmm.
me, I don't know about Gabrielle Union. I have my own thoughts about her, but I'm not gonna really say it because I might get canceled.
That's what people scared of, man. Y'all gotta stop being so damn scary,
No, no, no,
man.
no,
What
no,
y'all
man,
scared
man. I
of? This
don't
is
care,
the
man.
issue.
Me
That's the
personally,
issue right there. Is what I said, man. Y'all so scared to get
me
canceled.
personally, I don't care about getting canceled because technically, I got canceled by quote unquote Dominican YouTube. So that joint is funny to me.
Oh man. Now we got to speak up though
so
because
so
it's our
Y'all
like
gotta
children. You
start
know,
speaking up, man. Stop
it's
being
our
so
children. It's
scary.
our
Like
children's
I
future. You
know
know.
exactly. I know I don't got no hate in my heart for nobody, but I'm gonna stand up for what's right. At the end, of the, if we're not gonna stand up for what's right and our values and what you truly believe in, then what you gonna stand up for? Like I believe in.
exactly, that's what I
That's the
believe, and
issue. Man. I don't got no hate in my
at
heart.
then
Nobody can tell me I'm hateful. Like I can't. I'm not gonna let nobody like gaslight me into say,
yo
"Oh, you're hateful. You're this." That's
you
not
wanna
true. I
know
know who I am. I know my heart. Like I know I don't have no hate for nobody.
exactly, but you wanna know
Anybody.
what the biggest gaslight of words and everything is? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, like for example, if you actually look at the word phobia, right?
Yeah, it means you're scared. People are
Exactly.
scared. They scared of them.
Exactly. So so when it comes to, you know, the LGBTQ community or whatsoever, right?
Uh-huh.
Everybody now is using, okay, yeah, you're homophobic and all this stuff. Okay, let's put it like this. And this is one thing, and this is one thing that I have to say. When you put when you look at the word phobic, right? and you look at the word racist or whatsoever, right? Or whatsoever. The definition of phobia, right? You were telling somebody, oh yeah, somebody that don't like you or whatever, you're a phobic. When the fact is, that person does not fear you. He just don't like you. And that's the
Exactly.
biggest
It's a difference.
gaslight in language that people are
And
using.
not everybody gonna like each other. Like that's what me, Anthony. You were saying that on your stream. It's like if somebody don't like you, so what? Who cares? You expect the whole world
Exactly.
to like
And
you? Like who gives a
my
fuck?
problem with this, and people say it's not an agenda, it's an agenda because at the end of
It's
the
an
day, like
agenda. You can't tell me it's not.
LGBT people,
You
yeah,
can't
like
tell me it's not.
LGBT people, they don't represent that much of like popular percentage wise in our population. But when you turn on the TV, they're like half of the people that's represented on the TV. So that's showing you that it's an agenda. Like when I walk out my house and go to the grocery store, I don't see trans people that much like in the grocery store. Right? We don't see this
Not
all the
really.
time. But then
No.
you turn on the TV, that's all you see. So it's like it's clear.
I've
It's a
met
clear
trans
agenda.
people. I met like one, two. I could count like probably less than 10. Actually, I went. No, have I? I've met some trans people, but it's not every day. Like every single day, like everyday life. Like that's.
Exactly.
Can
But
I
you
actually
can't tell
touch
me it's
on
not an
something
agenda.
about that?
Go ahead, Georgia.
I'd like to
Yeah.
put out a quick stat in regards to that. So, technically speaking, the trans population in America is only 0.3% of the population. So, if you were to multiply that number by the amount of people in the country, which is 330 million people, that is about 1.4 million people in the entire country. So that would also mean that probably most people are probably never going to come across somebody who may be that way or may actually have things like gender dysphoria. It's just not going to be a day-to-day thing that you're going to encounter unless you're maybe like in a very, very super duper, very left-leaning area, like a very small blue island, but then that's just about it.
I
And then
mean,
plus a handful of them don't even really want to be known anyway, so it's just not going to be a day-to-day thing.
You can't tell
it's
me it's
So
like,
not.
the
okay,
media is very much is like exaggerating the issue, though it's really blowing it up and really trying to shove it down people's throats. But what's up, Don?
hey, how you doing, Georgia? How's everything?
Oh, fantastic. Going through some transformations.
Yes. Let me tell
I hear
y'all.
you.
So the argument is it's like, oh, the kids, they see straight people kissing and being lovey-dovey, and they're trying to say, oh, why can't they see gay people, right? So it's like the same, but it's not the same. Let's be real here. Like people are scared to like acknowledge differences. That's why with this whole trans women or women, I don't agree with that. You're not a woman. Like obviously not. There's a difference. Like
Yeah. And now
you
that
I
I
would
mean,
have like a
never
daughter,
like
now
this
that I have
whole
like a daughter, it's like super
straight.
disrespectful.
I
It
mean, not
is.
from, I mean, if you
And
actually look at it, right? And
uh-huh.
this is one thing which a lot of people don't get. And I'm not gonna hurt anybody's feelings, but it is what it is. If a regular man, right, dates a trans woman, right? Now that guy is not
He's not
considered
straight.
straight.
That's not no, no. To me, no, that's not straight, to be honest. I mean, for me.
Exactly.
Let's be
So
real. Let's be real. Let's just keep it like that's how I was always raised, to just always tell the truth. And the truth is there's a difference. Like I respect a trans woman. Like, I'll be like, okay, you are not a woman, you're not a biological female. That's your identity. I can respect that. Cool. But you can't sit here and tell me you're the same thing as me as a woman that was born a woman. You can't tell me
exactly,
that. Like that don't make no
There's a
sense.
reason why like trans is in front of the woman part, which
It
entails
yeah,
it's
and
something different,
I
which is
respect people. I
which is
respect
precisely what
yes.
those like Buck Angel and Blair White have talked about on their
Yeah,
shows.
I watch their shows sometimes. Yeah, and
Same here.
but I respect people's identity. I would never disrespect a trans woman. I would never disrespect nobody. Never ever. That's not who I am. I try to give people respect. But when they're trying to say like a straight couple is the same thing as a gay couple. There's a difference there, baby. There is.
no,
Like
it's not.
there's a huge
If you
difference,
if
and
you
we got to
actually
keep it
look
real
at it,
about
right?
it.
If you
Yeah.
actually look at it, right? I mean, I'm not talking about, I guess, the World Cup whatsoever, which was held in Qatar, right? There was like, okay, people who are involved the LGBTQ community or whatever. There was like they could never have on public PDA because it's illegal in that country. So they
Oh
were talking about
yeah.
how they're talking about how people, who actually live in Qatar, who is actually of that community, what they do is that, it's like they have sites that I guess they use Surfshark or whatever to block government censors or whatever, I guess pertaining to Qatar or whatever, so they could live their lives. But if you actually look at some of these countries, it's like the people who are actually, of that community will be the people that, that are affluent and everything. And the government will not really know because I guess they hide their lifestyle in secrecy to the point that the government will not mess with them because they're so affluent. But then certain people who, depending on what they are or stuff, and
They're
since
always coming
they're
down the
living
money.
like in a Sharia law or a place where Sharia law is practiced, certain people have been known to get executed just for that, or just put
Mm.
10 years in
And that's
jail or
sad.
more.
I think that's sad. Honestly, obviously, I don't agree with like the death penalty for gay. Like that's extreme and crazy to me. Like obviously not. I'm happy that gay people could exist and not feel threatened, and obviously that I support that, right? And what's crazy? What's surprisingly that I found out? Did you know Iran is one of the biggest places that trans people get surgeries at? Did you know that?
Yeah,
Like that's the biggest country. That's the
yeah,
where the most
I've heard that.
transsexual surgeries happen in Iran because the men they don't want to seem gay, so they make the all the gay people, and they're forced to have these surgeries so they don't appear like they're gay. Isn't that
It
crazy?
there's
That's
more
crazy, right?
actually to that though, but that actually is true. They will also do that though to avoid like prosecution for like a homosexual
So they
act.
could
So
pass
then
as a woman,
they would
right?
legally change their sex
Mm-hmm.
so that at least their government recognizes whoever they're with as a heterosexual
Wow.
union. That's where
And
all that
that's
stuff also stems from as well.
and we
Hence
have to
why it is
address.
dubbed the transsexual capital.
It's crazy, and we have to address the trans issue because people. This is what people keep trying to tie in our identity with trans community, right? They're trying to say, oh, I've heard these arguments before about, oh, if you're biracial and you claim you're black, that's like a trans person, a trans woman claiming she's a woman. You're not really a woman. You're just trying to identify how you feel. So many
It,
people are trying to like tie in our identities together. Like
it,
there's a lot of.
it's fun. It's funny so that you mentioned that, right? Like, okay,
Mhm.
I just saw something which I thought was funny and stupid at the same time. There was a guy that believed that he was a deer, right? This was a meme, of course. I don't know if it's true
Not
or
a
not.
deer,
Not for real though. There was a guy that
like a
actually,
furry or some shit. Like they're trying to.
yeah, like
That's
he actually
oh my
thought,
god.
that that he was a deer, and
What
then
the?
when he was walking when he was walking as a deer, um, hunters actually shot at him, thinking that he
No
just
way.
transformed into a deer. That's a meme though.
I said this a while back on a community post. I was like, everybody get to have a community, right? LGBT, you could be trans, you could be lesbian, you could do anything. You could be damn furry and identify as an animal, and they could build their own community. Nobody's gonna have an issue with it. But when it comes to like mulatto people building a community, oh, you don't need that. Why are you trying to build a community? What do you need that for? You're just black. You just gotta. That's what we get told. Isn't that
I
crazy?
mean, the thing is this. If you actually look at the history of America, right, and then the history of maybe other countries or whatsoever the case may be, I don't know how the dynamics are in Britain, but I've seen like most people who um who are actors and everything like that, I guess in modern day or whatsoever, who actually have the features of to be mulatto. Let's be honest. And in Canada also, like excluding Drake. So I don't know if the dynamics is different out there in those countries, but here it's like if a lot of people don't really know their history, but you have to show them their history.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that when America was first formed, there was like maybe just like the Dominican Republic, 6 classifications of race. Believe it or not, right? You had the Melungeons, you had other people, you had the whites, you had Native Americans, and then you had the slaves, and then I guess that Willie Lynch syndrome or whatsoever the case may be. And then you have certain people who are, I guess, they come from whatever, or they made like whatever classification. So I was actually watching a YouTube video about it, and there was a whole bunch of 6 categories that were originally in America, but then they did all away with them, I guess, during like the latter part of the 19th century or something.
Yep. Hi, Hybrid.
So
Welcome to the stream. Let me
Hey,
welcome
thanks.
Hybrid. How you doing?
Hey.
So, Hybrid, let me tell you that I wanted you to be part of the stream because I wrote you off at first, honey. I was like, "Oh, why are you so obsessed with gay people? What is the problem with like what is all this?" Like I totally was like not getting it at first, But come to find out, I think you're right. A lot of like the whole agenda where it's like people are trying to push their culture onto us, and it's like all of these things. Like I see what you're saying now. I want to say that you're not wrong about a lot of these things. So I just recently watched a video. I'm gonna show you this guy's video. Let me see if I can find it. But it was like a Project Veritas video where it's about like this dean of this principal, this dean of the school. It's like a private school in Chicago, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, we just give kids like butt plugs and all these." Queer sex things. We're
Yeah,
introducing
they're
kids
not
to
hiding it
queer
anymore.
sex and all this stuff. And I was shocked. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I would not want, they're paying $40,000 a year to send their kids to these private schools. And they're like, yeah, we just had a drag queen here and all this stuff. I'm like, this is not stuff that children should be introduced to. You can't go to a sex store if you're under 18 and they're introducing sex toys and stuff to kids. Like, that makes no
They
sense
have
to
them in
me. It's insane.
kindergarten. They have a kindergarten drag queen time where like they read
And
them
it's
stories
disgusting.
in
These are adult
sexual.
things that you guys are trying to push onto
The
children. And
men
it's like,
with
we
like
can't stand for that.
women's sexual attire, like as if it's like
We can't stand for that. Like us people, especially as us mulatto people, we're a vulnerable community. Okay. We're still trying to establish a culture here. And it's like, we can't take on certain things that are going to hurt children. That should be for anybody. If you're black, white, you can't take on certain things like pushing sexual ideologies onto children. Like that's disgusting. It's horrible. It's not something that, I think that there's a lot of gay people that stand up against that too. I got to give them credit, of course. I
a
do
lot
think
because a
that
lot of them now they don't even believe in heterosexuality. They believe that we've just all been socialized and we're all really kind of gay, and they're kind of going
exactly,
with
and
that.
that's something, and it's crazy, and you talk about that,
I
like,
had a I
what
had
do
a friend, may he rest in peace. He was against a lot of he was of the LGBTQ community, and he was actually against child exploitation because
as that's good, and I appreciate that, yeah, because it's not like every day. It's the people in power who are abusing their power. Any group or community that gets too much power, they always absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So that's something that we should, if you're in a position of power, especially over children, you should be held accountable. Like, no, we're not going to sit here and stand for children being exposed to things that they shouldn't be exposed to.
And this
Okay, that's
power is coming from the universities, right? They've kind of
exactly
taken
it's
over
education.
all the kind of social justice, even the kind of sexualities courses. They've kind of just taken over all that, and yeah, they're pushing
No,
their
that's
own.
a fact. I take classes now, and I'm telling you right now that they push that stuff down our throats. Like they purposely make us read like literature of like
Yeah,
feminism and
yeah, yeah.
LGBT. And if you look at the discussion board, like if anyone's taking any online classes now, you know that that's on everybody's mind, especially the women. They're talking about LGBT stuff and women stuff, so they're definitely pushing that down people's throats.
Somehow they got like LGBT and feminism became one. They kind of fused it into one kind of ideology.
But that's what
And
they're
I think
trying to do to us. They're trying to,
it's
like
because
you
the
said, they're
writers,
trying
most
to,
of the feminist writers are lesbians, so of course
but they're
that
trying
naturally is
to
gonna.
use biracial identity now to push their agenda, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
they're
what's going
putting
on
us
right
into the
now.
face.
And
That's
it's
because
we're
we
putting
have
us
a
into the
real voice
face.
for ourselves, so they think we can just use them for that. They don't ask us. It's
They
just
have
like
no voice. We
we're
have no
using them.
voice for ourselves, so they're just
Yeah,
going to use us
yeah,
and say, "Hey," because nobody's speaking up against it. Nobody's going to
exactly.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So, like Magic, though, I wanted to also say something that kind of goes back to kind of like what you were addressing like a little bit earlier, though, but it's still related. But the answer is no. Like they cannot put being mixed race or biracial on the same equivalency as being like LGBT or better yet being a trans person though, because like when they're transitioning, when they're on the hormone therapy, they actually have to go through a series of like blood trials and blood testings, and then also they're given like warnings that this could also predispose you to all sorts of cancers. You're not going to develop cancer because you're mixed race, and then let alone is that you're not going to be sterilized for being mixed race.
Oh, but
But
they put
transitioning
interracial
will very much
relationships.
sterilize you. Wait, what's up, Viber?
They put interracial relationships in the same category as gay relationships. That's why they had the law where it was protecting gay.
Wow. Yeah, you know the
Yeah,
Excuse me.
you can't really
hold
do
on,
that.
Jose, you want to say
So
something?
the two things are,
Yeah.
like I said the other day, they're fundamentally separate.
They're not, yeah,
issues.
but that's what they've done. They've attached that because their argument for allowing gays was based in, well, you guys allow interracial relationships. So it was like using that argument to allow themselves. And
Yeah,
that's
I
how
could-
they got in. And so their whole argument for the rights is based in that. So they use that. And they keep
I could
Okay.
tell you this, like Hybrid, though, like I mean, I grew up and born and raised in Berkeley, California, which is all about that. Even for people who are very far left leaning over there, can see the difference. They're just not going to go out there and say it.
Go ahead,
But they
Jose.
definitely
What
know
you have
that
to say?
being such as myself is not the same. Sorry, Jose, what's up?
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jose. He said he's going to say something.
Yeah, well, I think what gets lost in all this, that throughout much of recorded written history going back thousands of years, homosexuality was frowned upon. It was frowned upon on the three major religions that believe in one God, which is Christianity, Judaism,
Yeah.
and Islam. It's only within the last 50, 60 years have the concept of the LGBTQ community is being accepted. Now, I'm not a mulatto by any sense of the imagination, but I would consider it very insulting if I was a mulatto and comparing being compared to the LGBT community, because the mulattoes have their own identity. I mean, it's bad enough there's not enough recognition regarding their community, regarding what they have done, what their achievements, their struggles, and what have you, and then to be, mushed in with the LGBTQ community. It's like we're further burying them under another subgroup.
But Jose, look at this. It's crazy because we already get looked at as feminine and LGBT. I was talking about this in my stream
So
earlier.
and they believe that that's real, and that's why they kind of put us with queer. They
Yeah,
believe, how
exactly.
you have binary, there's they always say non-binary. Well, they're saying it like, well, because we're a non-binary race, we're not binary, we're not black or white, therefore we are we're somewhat queer. That's what they mean, and they kind of try to give us the impression that we're supposed to be kind of queer. Like, do you understand? How there's
Yeah,
gender, there's a
And
gender
let's
binary,
talk
but they
about
think they compare that to like the racial binary, and they think that we're queer, so there's like a sharedness, and we're kind of just expected. It's pushing us a little more. We're expected to be this new kind of race, but we're supposed to be more queer.
But with all due respect, I find that very insulting, and I'm not a mulatto, so I can just imagine how the mulattoes feel about that.
Yeah, and let's talk about, okay, here's
Well, they do
something
it to the
that
Latino community too that aren't mulatto. They push the Latinx on
the
them to
Latinx
try to
thing,
get rid of
yeah.
that gender. Yeah.
Yep, they do. And a lot of Latin people, they're so against that. They're like,
Yeah.
no, we're not.
Those are
we're
the
not.
LGBT people in the Latin community that are pushing that. They put the X thing. They're trying to
Yeah,
get
they're
rid of
not
like
with that
that.
shit. Most
Yeah.
like it was a poll, like 93 or 90% of them are not with trying to change their whole language in order to. No, they're not with that because
Yet
standing to the
somehow
gendered language. It's
somehow they're still able to get power. Like, how does a transgender make us change all our lives, all the way that we use our labels? Straight, gay, what's a man, what's a woman? We have to say like these are people carrying children, or what do they have? Hole havers or something? They have a front hole instead of vagina. Like this small minority has had enough power that we, by law, we can't even say what they are. We have to
that's
say their
something.
pronouns, and we have
So
to
let me speak on two things about that. So I wanted to speak on us. Okay, this is something that like the LGBT community and like biracial people, this is something we do have in common when it comes to like the religious aspect of it. It's like, in Christian Bible, how they condemn homosexuality. And then at the same time, people try to use the Bible to condemn like interracial marriages and like mixed race mixing and misogynation too. So I feel like that's something that like our communities both have in common, is that we're both like kind of condemned by the Bible, and like
I do want to
So,
correct something.
like,
So,
like,
I want to correct
Yeah,
Magic.
something with the
well,
what do
religion.
y'all think
So,
about
like,
that?
Magic. I'm
Yes.
very glad that I know my Bible,
Mm-hmm.
so do I.
but that's something that's probably for like another topic.
Just
another
another
day
topic.
where we can
Okay,
actually talk about
we'll talk
things
about that in
regarding
depth. Like that's
interracial
something.
relationships and
That'd be a
themes
great
within the
topic to
biblical
talk about another
context.
day. All
Yeah,
right,
but
go
I
ahead.
just want to clarify something because people get this mixed up. The Bible condemned sodomy specifically. It wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily gay people, it was sodomy. So that
Sodomy
there
is
was
like
no
what
in the
is
bum
sodomy?
bum,
Okay.
in the bum bum by a man
Oh,
to another adult man. But it didn't say anything about
oh.
lesbians. Lesbians were not in it. It didn't say anything about women.
Hmm.
But the reason was different. The reason why, in fact, the lesbian is only like it's only been around for like 50 years. The term, it's because they weren't considered to have because they weren't penetrating. It wasn't considered sex, so they weren't even considered. Only men could be considered, right? That's how it was. They basically that's why they complain about lesbian erasure. They think they were erased. No, it's just that they didn't consider it sex. It wasn't penetration, so nobody really suspected. But yeah,
And I want to talk
but
about like a small minority. I feel like how can we become that small minority that has a little bit of power? Like how do we get there
we have to
where
be
we get
efficient and more connected. We have to be better connected. We have to be
better
like
connected?
yeah, like so when I can say something and everybody else can hear that. Like let's say we let out I don't know a cry to I don't know let's say boycott something for the sake of argument. Well they got to be able to hear it and do it right. Where the black community can kind of do that, we can't right. Nobody else is going to stand up and
Nobody's
right. We don't
hearing
really
us.
have that kind of collectiveness. It's something we got to
Yeah,
get used to, and we got to grow it from this face outward, right?
I
Well,
agree.
what I can
I
also
think it
kind of
takes
say is that
economics too.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
No, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
go
Who
ahead.
was trying to talk? Go ahead,
Well,
Arturo.
one thing that we can do though is do what we're doing now because, as we already know, everybody on here has actually had like a historical beef with one another. But look at what we're doing now, actually finally coming together and unifying on what's actually going to be the best for our people. That's actually very much one way of actually growing and accelerating.
Absolutely. It starts that connectivity, and then we could build economics, and then we could get in positions because it takes money to get into positions of power. You need the education, right? Education costs money,
Yeah. And
so
Even
that's what
that's
it
what
something,
kind
takes.
of like
Oh,
the six of us are doing here on the panel, even though like, yes, we've actually had like our previous falling outs, but
exactly.
put all that stuff aside. Let's just do what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
And
without
then
even
we
anything
might
something as
be
power,
able
simple
to
as
bring
like,
about those favorable results to make sure that they come to fruition. Because what we're
for
doing
real.
now is very much conducive to what we want to do and things that are conducive to our success.
Absolutely, because we need some type of power because we keep getting taken advantage of. People see that people take advantage of vulnerable people, right? That's just how it is. Like people are going to be predators. That's human nature, right? They're going to take advantage and exploit vulnerable communities. That's why we need to step up and start getting in positions of power and start having a voice and start building communities so we can be protected and actually have some type of so we're not our identity and who we are is not always being exploited by more powerful groups. That's what's always been happening.
Exactly,
So,
though. And that should actually precisely be everybody's New Year's resolution.
oh, I like that. We're gonna step it up. We're gonna step it up. Okay.
and sometimes it could be just as simple as making a call. You know what I mean? Like we can be calling
Yeah.
Disney and call these executives, and not just that, but if you have a
Real.
Twitter, you can at them and say you're upset, who you are, and you're offended by this. And then of course it's going to eventually take also economics. Like creating, organizations that we can pretty much put our money behind. You know what I'm saying? Some of
Mhm.
our agenda or whatever.
Yo, guys, I'm about to be out, but it was nice being on the panel.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
Okay,
Thanks for
take
jumping on.
care,
Have a good night. Okay.
Armando. Be
All
safe.
right, man. Peace.
All right,
Have
you
a
All right,
too.
good
have a great night.
night.
Okay,
So,
but
All right.
yeah, go
but
ahead,
I
OJ.
think but I think the key is this. As an outsider, the mulattoes and need to be able to come together. They need to form their own community. They need to support each other. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then once they do that, they will become a force. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
like it's like if you take one stick, you can break it easily.
Hmm.
But if you
Yep.
take out like a whole handful of sticks and you put them together, it's very hard. I mean, that's the problem. The problem is, you know, the mulattoes need to support each other. They need to
Hmm.
care about each other. They need to form like a group, like an alliance within each other, and then support each other. Once they're able to do that, they will become a force.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I think we do have a lot of like programming that we need to undo in our minds and actually see us as our own people and actually see us as, hey Reese, how you doing? So we can start to collectivize and be like, hey, this is one of my people. This is so I'm going to support them. I'm gonna, we got to start doing that unprogramming. It's like, hey, we're just some light skinned black people. Like that's the programming we have. Like we're just like light skinned black people, so there's no difference. But there is a difference. You know, we have our own we have our own unique genetic code that is specific to us, right?
Frequency. Yeah.
And we need to start seeing it and respecting our own identity first and foremost. Like start respecting our own identity so we can respect each other's, right? So that's what needs to happen. And
I,
so
we need to
it
create.
starts with self.
Go for it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
We need to create a community that we invest in ourselves, even financially. The community that, like,
Mhm.
for example, that maybe having channels that provide us with services that we need, like a health service, but we support them. We support each other, our own people. The money comes in like from us and stays in our own community, and it kind of, do you understand?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so that when we're buying services, we're not giving our money to other communities. We're not buying it from them, and it goes back into their community, but stays in the mixed race community, and we're getting off ourselves. You understand?
Somebody said we must abolish capitalism to create multiracial space. Capitalism ain't
Yeah,
going nowhere.
yeah,
No,
It
no,
ain't
no.
going nowhere. That's gonna be a long time, baby.
Okay,
We have to work the system right now. We gotta learn how to play the game. Okay, we gotta play the capitalism game. I'm sorry, we gotta
first,
do it.
okay,
We
okay,
can't just go in the
okay.
wilderness. And
First of all,
sorry,
there's no system that's foolproof. Okay, what you need to do is learn how to function within the rules of an
we gotta
economic
learn how to
system.
function. We gotta adapt to the system that we have in place right now. We gotta learn how to be adaptable and actually win and actually be like, hey, this is what we got to do to succeed and win. Like we got to focus on doing that because
and it's
capitalism has its flaws. Oh,
Actually,
baby,
yeah,
I
but
already know.
I think a
I
mixed
have some
community
I
lets
already
ideas.
people.
know.
I think a mixed community is what a mixed community is best. But I mean, I don't mean mixed as I mean capitalism with a little bit of socialism. So like basically, you want
Yeah,
your system in a way that when people don't become so rich that no one else can catch up, right? So you want a
exactly.
system
That's what
that people get
system we
the
live in.
higher they get, you kind of take from the top and you give to the bottom, right? So
We
you
got to
the
take the
higher.
best of both
So
worlds, right?
the
Yeah,
people on the bottom have to believe that they have a struggling chance to go to the top, and if they feel
exactly.
that that's not possible, they'll just flip the whole poker board, right? So they
That's what's
have
going
to.
on in America right now.
So
Like
you have
it's
to
like
allow for
nobody
room for
feels like.
mobility, and yeah, if
Mhm.
people are too rich, take from the top and help the bottom and keep everybody up, so they don't fail completely. There's always an opportunity, and that's how it
That's what
goes. You need
that's what's happening in
capitalism and
America right now,
communism.
though. Like it
Yeah,
feels like the wealth
it's
gap
a
is
mix.
so crazy, and that like you can't really get nowhere. The price of living is going insane, and it's just yeah, it's a feeling system. It
Because
really is. It is,
because
but
the
we have
really
to.
rich don't get taxed. I'm in Canada, right? So the rich get taxed. The richer you get a bigger tax bracket, right? So it's like
Capitalism.
so the higher you get, it's
It's
a little
sad.
harder, and it helps the people on the bottom. Basically, the success of the people on top starts to help the bottom because it's taken and brought to the bottom, keeping
We
everybody within a certain
do.
range.
We have to fix things that are not working, right? If it's not working, it's not working, but we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We gotta that's how I always think. Like as a mulatto, I'm always trying to like see what works and throw out what doesn't. Like that's how I always think. Okay. Like when it comes to culture,
So,
I'm just take what works and throw out what doesn't, period. So that's how
Well,
we gotta kind of like
it depends on the issue. You're
mix and move.
capitalist on some issues and socialist on others, right? I would
Yeah,
say.
exactly. Exactly. You got to just do what works. That's how I feel about like the whole conservative and liberals. Like sometimes I'll be a conservative on this issue if I feel like okay, this is the right thing, but I feel like on a liberal I'll be like, "Oh, this is the right thing. Let's not discriminate or, be racist or whatever." Right? Obviously. So that's I kind of like that. Is that wrong? People say that's like flip-floppy or
Well,
I'm not sure,
I kind of do
man.
want to discriminate in terms of let's say hiring ourselves if it's necessary, if we have an opportunity in that way. Do you know what I mean?
I would do the
I
same thing.
agree.
Yeah, if we have a business, of course, like I don't see nobody if I see a black owned business, they're only hiring black people. I'm like, that's cool. I love to see that. Great. If I see an Indian owned business, they're only hiring Indian people. I'm like, that's cool. I love that. It's great. So it's nothing wrong with that. I really don't think there's nothing wrong with hiring your own people and want to see your own people succeed and have money in their pocket. And they're doing a service to other people too. It's not like they're discriminating against
And
who
the
can get
money
the
that's
service,
being made is going right
right?
back to the same community again. It's
Exactly.
staying
I
in
don't feel
that
like there's
community.
nothing wrong with that. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that I like to see. I support black-owned businesses. I support,
The problem with the
it
black
depends
community is
more.
the money leaves
Mhm.
so fast that
That's
there's
the
negative
issue.
money and they have to kill each other to have more money because there's not even
Exactly.
enough
That's
money.
the issue.
The
See,
only way they get more money is by killing somebody else.
Anthony, that's what I want to talk about on your stream. Remember how we were talking about black people got power. Don't we talk about how black people are like the $1 trillion spending power of black people, right? but it's not being used in the
in the
community.
best way.
It's
Yeah.
people are choosing to spend their money on outside things outside of the community. So it's
Or
like
just
it's not
like
that you don't have
diamonds or
power
like
or
gold
money,
necklaces
you're
or
just not
something.
using it appropriately. That's the issue. Like that's what it's not that you don't have it. It's the fact that how you're using it. So that's something we got to learn
Yeah.
from and be like, how are we going to use our little bit of money and power appropriately so it could grow, and so that we could, be in a good position where we're not
I
being
wanted
taken
to talk.
advantage of.
Yeah, I
Yeah, go
wanted to
ahead,
talk to
Georgia.
you a little bit about that Magic, because I actually
Yeah,
know
of
how
course.
to actually get up there though. So like when I was spending some time with some of the like Amish families over there in the Midwest, they will work their jobs, but then they will also like donate their money or put their money into like a trust fund or at least into a bank. But then what we can also do from there though is start learning how to accumulate compound interest from that money so that it can become flipped. And then that way that money goes
Mhm.
back to their communities to keep everybody happy and stable. So whether somebody needs help with like medical needs or whatever, we can come to their aid. Or better yet, if we actually really want like more like representation, we will send our money to whatever those campaigns are for the sake of political expediency and clout.
And try to
The
depend on each
Amish
other
do it.
instead of outside people. Try to depend on each other instead. Try to create, right?
That's
Yes.
something that
And also like when it comes back to the whole liberal or conservative issue, you know that the Amish, they don't care one bit about capitalism or liberalism. All those mundane terms mean absolutely nothing, but they still nevertheless make it work. So if they can do it, then so can we, especially when we actually use technology.
Capitalism is heteronormative as well, right?
That's something that Mola
Works fine.
Vanguard talked about,
Just a
right?
food
About
for
like
thought.
power economics, like Dr. Claude Anderson about like
Yeah,
power
yeah. Oh, yeah.
economics.
That's where I
That'd be
got
a
it
good
too from.
literature for us to like
Yeah, we should
learn and
check
read
that out.
about, get down.
He's a
But
mulatto, and he was trying to
definitely
help Black people, but maybe we can
we could
adopt
apply
those
that to
principles.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Exactly. So we gotta have that type of mindset that we're trying to, have that knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? So you gotta have the knowledge so you could apply it correctly, so you could
Let me
build,
ask you guys a
you know.
question. Like, this is something I've been thinking
What's
about.
up?
What do you guys think about like possibly like moving to a specific area to pretty much like
Oh, we talked
put
about
a
that.
pop? Yeah, talked about that. What do you think about that?
You know what? I asked people one time. They're like, "Where should we all move to?" They said Florida. That's what they said.
I have to turn down Florida. I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah, but he said
I will
Louisiana.
visit, but
Georgia said Louisiana.
I'd be
He
thinking
was like,
about
he was,
Hawaii. Go to
Louisiana.
Hawaii.
Hawaii. There, too many volcanoes for me, baby. I'm not going to know. But Florida got a lot of hurricanes too, so I want to go somewhere warm. But we need to get our own island. Let's just get an island somewhere. I'll be okay with that.
I
So
think
But
first
even if we
we
don't
need a
really end up
huge
establishing
online
any
presence. We
autonomous
need a huge
communities,
connected online
still
presence,
donate.
like 10 times the people we have now. Just a huge, where other people can hear us, or even things that we say sometimes will end up getting picked up in the news or in the gossip, just because we're so big of a source for such a big group online. That's what we need. We need that kind of presence with like little communities like our discords where we can watch reasons to hang out and get together and build our culture.
absolutely, it's
Yeah,
about
we talked
growing and
about
building.
meetups. Remember Magic? We talked about the little meetup thing
Yeah,
too. We
I'm
could do
working on that. I gotta save some money. I'm spending all my money on Christmas right now, so I'm like, ugh. But
Do you
after
still
Christmas.
plan to come to my neck of the woods since that
Yes,
was the chosen
yes, yes,
place?
yes, yes, yes. That's something I need to work on mostly. Like that is my main priority as like a mulatto. Financial literacy. It takes self discipline to save money. Okay, let's be real. You got Amazon and all this online. We need self discipline, right? That's the key to that and delay. The number one key to success is delayed gratification. That's a skill that we
One of the
need to
best,
like
yeah,
get down pat. Is
Yeah.
delayed gratification, and that's how we save up money, and that's how we can invest. We got to learn how to, because that's something within Black culture that's like not
that's the
really
worst. That's the
promoted,
worst thing. Yeah,
right?
they don't
It's like instant
disclose more on.
gratification, da 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 da. Da. That's something I don't. I think that's American culture, really. It's like instant gratification, just fast now, everything, da 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 da. But the number one key to success that we really need to like instill into our mentee or our minds is delayed gratification, and it's hard. Okay, that's something. That's my main thing that I want to work on myself, so I
Also
can have
discipline.
like money and power. So that's something we need to really.
Well, the
That's
reason
what
I
I think.
brought
That's
up
what.
the whole move into a place is because yeah, like the online presence is cool and everything, but when it comes to like actually building like a generational community, that's gonna take people being in the same area. So
Facts.
you can't just be the like single mulatto person in a sea full of like different people, because then your
Facts.
kids eventually are just gonna marry other people, and you're just gonna all your efforts are pretty much gonna be for for
I
not
see,
using
I
it.
see what you're saying, but I think like this is the future, right? We're not going back, and we're only going to get more and more and more connected, right? If you can find that person that you would want to meet up with on here, and then just meet up independently, I think that would work just as well. If we have a lot of people on here from all different parts of like the country, you're going to meet somebody who's in your area you could meet up with, and yet still do this. I think we should take advantage of this. Yeah, I think we should take advantage of this.
Honestly, Arto, if you want to
Like
come
where
up
I
here,
live,
what?
I don't talk to anybody around my place. Literally, it's pretty it's pretty gutter. But I don't even interact. So it's like I'm not even here. I'm just on the internet.
I don't
wherever
really
else.
interact with folks. I mean, I go to work. I love everybody at my job. It's cool. But then I go home and just be at my house, basically, just with my
Yeah, I don't
family.
talk to anybody outside around my house.
I say what's up to my neighbors here and there. They're nice. I like them, but it's not like I don't really, yeah. But I want to know, what is Marxism? I keep hearing that word. I hear that a lot in liberal spaces, and then I hear a lot of it in like conservative spaces. They're so
It's the
anti-Marxist.
opposite of capitalism, right?
It's the
So,
opposite of capitalism.
yeah, which is like basically you get paid regardless of how much you work. Kind of everybody gets paid the same,
Oh, okay.
right? So it's like, yeah, where with capitalism you can work harder and get paid more, or you could use your already money that you have, your capital, you have property. So in capitalism you have property. Where in Marxism, full Marxism, there's no property. You don't own anything.
I
Everything's held in
agree.
common. But
So
you
like
know,
Magic, though, in
Yay.
other
but
words,
what
so it's
happened is
more
if the
so like
government
a
ends up
system.
controlling everything, right?
It's more like a system between the proletariats versus the bourgeoisies.
Yeah,
The
Mm.
they're going to push.
proletariat class.
Yes, capital. Yes, but there's also a heteronormative aspect, right? Because the ability to have a nuclear family allows you to pass down generational wealth, and that's a very capitalist thing. Whereas that's why it tend to be straight. If you look at even just the political spectrum, right, most of the gay people are on the left, right? It's not a coincidence. It's also to do with the way that they set up. They don't have the generational wealth thing, so they would rather not do that, right? They seem to be
Okay.
much more against having property. When you see that
Hmm.
commercial when it says like,
I should read up
"Oh,
on
in
it. I
like
will.
25 years, you're gonna own nothing and you're gonna love it." You seen that one?
Oh yeah, I've heard that before.
It's
Didn't
like a
Trump
gay
say
dude.
that or something? It
No, it's
was
a gay man.
Trump.
He would never say that. That's
I swear it
Marxism.
was Trump who said that. Somebody like
No,
quoted
that's
Trump.
Marxism. That's Marxism. It was a gay dude who said that. It was
Hmm.
Trump's the opposite. Trump's very capitalist.
I need to educate myself more on these types of things. Definitely, I want to. And okay, here's what I'm proposing for us right now today. So, how about we start working? Like, I live in Washington, Hyber's in Canada, Georgia's in
Nevada, Las
Nevada, and
Vegas.
then Anthony's in the East Coast, Connecticut. So how about we start working, like building little spaces where we're at right now? Instead of all of us like moving somewhere, I don't think that's kind of realistic, honestly. But I think we could start like, hey, let's have like a little meetup between like just start like, I don't know, Facebook or anything. Like start
I
doing like
say we
little
make this,
local things right here. Like we could just start. I don't know what we could. We just start having little meetups of like, hey, this is for biracial mulatto people to get
but is it
together
going to
and
be
get to know each
better?
other.
Is it going to be any better? It seems like it's just going to
We
cost
gotta
more
try it out.
money,
Hey, you never know till you try,
and it's
right? So
really
I,
not
I
going to
think
do
we
us
could
better.
start working on
Let's
that. Like,
just
how
put
can
it
we
to
start
practice though and
organizing?
see what the
Yeah,
results are going to
just start
ensue.
organizing. We're gonna start seeing what would work because we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna figure out what works, what doesn't work, and we could just start organizing things. And then we could do one big meetup sometime. Be like, hey,
But if
we
we
could all go to.
generate and create a huge community, there's going to be other people in your area already because
We could
there's
do
got to be
both.
somebody. You're going to be more likely to be able to make.
Yeah,
Do you
I
understand?
agree
If
with that.
right now
Yeah.
we're small, if we blow this thing up, we got like tens of thousands of people. You're going to be much more likely to find matches to meet up with. Is what I'm
Hi,
saying.
Arto. Thanks for
Hi.
popping up. How you doing?
Hi, how you guys doing? Good, good.
What up, man?
Let's
Chill
get
your.
that
What up,
going,
what up?
get that big, and then we'll drop those kind of ideas.
I
Yeah.
agree. So, are you gonna teach us about Marxism? Like, what
Yeah,
is
I
your?
am.
Why do you feel like it'd be
I
best for
now I'm
like
not
multiracial communities?
I'm kind of new to Marxism. I've been a Marxist, let's see, almost 2 years. But Marxism is when the working class controls the means of production. So you have the working class, which is like
That's the theory.
obviously people that work like retail, stuff like that. You have your ruling class, which is like the executives, and then you have like the petty bourgeoisie, which is the small business owners. So your ruling class right now controls the means of production. Now, if the workers were to seize the means of production, seize capital, um, then they would be creating a dictatorship of the proletariat. And under Marxism, uh, everything is run by a dictatorship of the proletariat. So that's how Marxism works. So yeah, and what you guys were talking about, the mix of capitalism and socialism, that would be social democracy. But here's the thing with social democracy: there is still imperialism. Now, imperialism is defined as the highest stage of capitalism.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
if you look at countries like social democracies in Western Europe, like France, for example,
Mhm.
they still engage in imperialism. They still engage in neo-colonialism
Yeah,
in North
I'm not
Africa and
necessarily
West
against
Africa.
all that stuff, though. I'm not necessarily against all that stuff. Like, I mean, I'm
So,
less concerned with that like with the neocolonialism stuff. It doesn't bother me as much. But like, I'm in Canada, right? And we have that. We have a mixed economy.
So has there been? I heard that wasn't Stalin a Marxist or something like that. I don't know.
Stalin was a Marxist.
He was a Marxist, right?
Stalin was a Marxist, and he helped bring technological advances to the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and
Is
how
there
many
any
people
other
got
places
murdered?
that, like,
How
right
many people
now?
had a Holocaust though too?
Cuba,
They also had
Nicaragua,
Holocaust.
and Venezuela. Venezuela is moving towards Marxism. Cuba
Yeah,
and
but look at their
Nicaragua are
economy now.
Marxist as
Look at it.
well.
But
Okay,
look
so
at
like
The
our
Sandinista
two.
movement is based off of Marxism.
go look at BreadTube on the internet and go look at the type of people there. Don't tell me that they're not a different kind of
And
people.
China also is Marxist, but they're more of a market socialist country.
Communists, yeah.
And China does a lot of great things. I don't agree with everything they do, like their views on Palestine. They're Zionists, they're liberal Zionists, but they do a lot of great stuff like win-win cooperation in building the Belt and Road Initiative, and helping economically in Africa and in other parts of Asia and in Latin America. So
I feel
If
like
I
yeah,
if I go to BreadTube right now, right, where it's all about right socialism, you know what I'm talking about? It's like
what's
the socialist
BreadTube?
area on YouTube. It's called BreadTube.
No, I never. But
You
I feel
never
like
heard of it,
The
Arthur?
Chinese,
I've
the
never heard of
Chinese
that.
are
I've
the
never heard of
Chinese
that.
are
I was asking
exploiting.
Arthur. I was asking Arthur.
They're exploiting
like,
Africa right now. Actually, they say it's
I was
help, but they
asking
They're
him.
put a
colonizing. They're
yeah they
colonizing
put they
Africa.
put
Yeah.
loans.
it's not colonization. It's not colonization because it's win-win cooperation. They're helping Africa develop economically. That is not
And
colonization.
they're also taking their women, right?
What France is doing with
Because
the IMF
China has a
loans,
shortage of women,
what
Exactly.
England and America are doing
Oh
with
yeah.
the
so they're going there to take their women.
IMF
Let me ask you:
loans.
have you been to Africa? Have you
Uh,
spoke to Africans that work for Chinese
dude,
people?
I'm part Moroccan and Algerian. My
Yeah, but
mom went to
but
Morocco
have you
18
been
years
there
ago.
and talked to Africans who worked with Chinese people?
And
Because I have, and I know some, and they get
and
exploited.
and I know people. I know other people from North Africa and West Africa, and to a lesser extent East Africa, who agree with win-win cooperation. Um, and on the question about seize the means of production, um, we would advocate a peaceful transition to socialism, but we would build dual power within our communities, like community organizations, like the Black Panthers, Young Lords, and Brown Berets did. So, like breakfast programs, literacy programs,
They
know
did
your
WIC.
rights type of
All the victim
programs.
groups and intersectional
WIC.
So
feminism.
that's what we would do on a local level, and then build
So
obviously a viable communist party to seize the means of production, um, and build socialism here in the States, Pan-American socialism. Actually, I do know what's going on in Africa. I do know what's going on in Africa. I know that China is building a port in Tanzania as part of their Belt and Road Initiative. Danny Haifong had a great video on it. I do know that the city of Wahran in Algeria, where some of my family is from, they are building a tram system several years ago. Okay. I know what's going on. Okay. I know what's going on. I know that Hamas and Fatah met in Algiers, in Algiers, to reconcile their differences last week. Okay.
Do you know about the
I don't go
horrible
anywhere.
treatment that Africans are going under though? Like let's say for example in Rwanda how they were like basically deporting Chinese for their mistreatment. There was a video that came out with Chinese whipping black people like with
Again,
whips.
no, that's
Have you
crazy.
heard about those stories?
I don't know. I don't know whether those are verified or not because there's a lot
No,
of
there's a video of it. I
anti-China
think it happened in
propaganda.
Rwanda and they
The ruling
deported the
class
people.
puts out a lot of anti-China propaganda. Well, see, the
No,
relationship
no,
with
no.
North
Go watch
Africa and
Wode
China is
Maya's channel. Wode
complicated.
Maya has a video and he speaks Chinese actually. He lived in China. He has a video where there's a guy
Now,
and he
now,
basically hold on. He goes around and he basically makes little African kids say they hate themselves and they're monkeys in Chinese and he sells these videos to
That's
people in
crazy.
China. And the guy, Wode Maya, it's on his page right now. He speaks Chinese. So he knows what they're saying.
Damn, drop the link. Drop the link. I need to see that. That's crazy. Wow.
There's a lot of ruling class propaganda that Wall Street and the ruling class are promoting against China.
It's not propaganda, bro.
Dude,
Yo, it's real, man.
Hold up.
It's
The ruling
real.
class against governments that they consider adversarial, no, seriously, they do propaganda.
Well, there you have governments they don't like. Of course, they're at
Chinese
war.
are not doing what the U.S.
That doesn't mean this is propaganda, though.
The Chinese are not doing what the U.S. is. They're trying to help those countries build dual power and develop economically. That's what they're doing. It's not colonialism. What the U.S. is doing is colonialism. What France, Canada, and England are doing is colonialism. What China is doing is
I'm not against colonialism.
Are you not against
Okay.
it?
Not,
Wow.
It's
but
not.
what do you mean?
Now, honestly, there are some good
Yeah,
aspects
they're
of
doing
colonialism.
That's
but there are
what
also
I
bad
wanted to
aspects
say.
of it, too.
We gotta look.
There's good and bad that comes
People
along
are
with
so
colonialism.
extreme. They only look at the. That's what I try to look. I like to look objectively, like let's pros and cons of like every system or what people are doing. If the pros outweigh the cons, then
China is building infrastructure in Africa. The U.S. is tearing up infrastructure. Why do you think AFRICOM has a presence in Africa? It's not to build infrastructure.
Building up though, there's still
It's to
colonialism.
steal resources.
what are the advantages of Marxism over capitalism or a mixed economy? So
It's
what are the
on
advantages?
African
Well,
land.
you
They're
have
taking that land. That's
win-win cooperation. Economically, you have win-win cooperation. So you have countries collaborating together to build each other up, where both countries benefit, rather than
yeah, but I don't think that's not
social
necessarily not
democracy, which still maintains the highest level of capitalism, which is imperialism.
Yeah, but it
and
also it
still
trims from the
exploits
top. So,
resources.
yeah, but it takes.
I
the
mean,
people
just
at
look
the
at
top.
what France is
It
doing in
takes-
Africa.
It takes from at the top and it gives to the bottom. What's wrong with that?
No, that's not true. That's win-win
Well,
cooperation. And
no, but that's
also-
what I was talking about. That's what I was talking about as a mixed system where you have somewhat of a capitalist system, so you have mobility and you have opportunity, and people are motivated to get up and work hard and do things.
Being from Morocco,
But
is like,
you have like limits where when you start getting too up, your tax bracket increases, and that money then is used to help the people on the bottom get up.
But we
Right,
got to
and so
take human nature into
you build
consideration.
dual
With any
powers,
system,
like,
any idea could sound
communism
good,
is
like
community-minded.
conceptually, but realistically, you got to look at like what are humans really doing. Like in China, like of course they're gonna abuse their power. Like that's any group. They're gonna abuse their power. They're gonna be greedy. They're gonna want to win. They're gonna want to be better. Like you got to take human nature. I always gotta look at human nature. What are humans realistically gonna do in these systems?
And I
That's
think,
ideally, you know.
do you think that Chinese they're going to have an intelligence advantage to be able to, like, in the bargaining when it comes with Africa, like that they would like be able to like outsmart
I've
them or
seen a
something?
video. I've seen a video of a Chinese man. He was saying how he thinks that Africans are just lazy and stupid, and they just. I've seen that. So it's like they're gonna go over there and then like look down at them, and then they're gonna try to be like, oh well, we're gonna want to have power over you because we're better than you. Like that's naturally what's gonna happen because that's how humans are. Unfortunately,
that's one person. The Chinese government has actually helped countries in Africa develop their economies, build infrastructure.
I believe they're both going to get something out of it.
You got to look at human history,
But
though.
I still think it's kind of
history.
colonization. Colonization sometimes benefits because it can bring technology that they never had, or even make a place better than it was.
What you got to understand, dialectical materialism. What China's doing is win-win cooperation. What China's doing in Africa, both sides win.
Yeah,
and for most regions of the world, China does this. They do win-win cooperation. Both sides benefit. Both sides win. Okay? What the U.S. is doing, they exploit the resources. They exploit the people. The people don't benefit. There is a vast difference between win-win cooperation and capitalism. There is a vast difference.
You can have win-win scenarios in capitalism, can't you?
Not under capitalism, you can't.
Mind you, I'm saying a mixed system. Mind you, I'm saying like where
the thing about capitalism that I don't like. Here's the thing about capitalism. So you have a business. Yeah, you have a business. You want to do everything you can to make sure these people don't get paid as least as possible, so you could get paid as much as their wages are not coming out of your pocket. So that's the thing about capitalism. It's like it's always going to try to screw over the workers because that's coming out of my pocket. So that's the problem with capitalism. We got to fix that. We want to. That's why people are not people working 40 hours are not being able to afford rent anymore because they're trying to pay people as less as possible. So that's the issue with capitalism.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Marxism takes out the incentive to exploit, and it says okay, we're gonna make things out
Think
of
about crony,
necessity,
crony
not out of
capitalism. Like,
exploitation.
We need to
that's
fix
crony.
something.
That's
We do
crony
need to fix
capitalism.
something. We
The
need
problem
people
with
to be able. If you
capitalism
work 40 hours
is
a week,
simply that
you should be able to
the
afford
rich
rent.
keep getting richer. Once you have so much money, you can there's so many ways to keep the others down, and that's the problem. Is that it creates eventually you're going to get a revolution. You're going to get a revolution like a French Revolution where there's going to be so many people that are they're not getting enough. They're working for so little, and they'll just overthrow, and the government will get overthrown. Right? That's what they did in France, where they killed off all the aristocracy. Right? Because it kept getting
Mhm.
like it kept getting less. So
Make 'em eat cake.
that's a natural outcome of capitalism. But to counter that outcome, you add in socialism where you take from the top and you prevent them from getting too far from the guys on the bottom, and you give it to the bottom, right? So you're always like taking from the top and giving it back, so that the bottom never gets low, like it never stays low. They're always kind of being picked up with the system, and they still have some room for mobility, like to move up.
But people
You know?
complain about that too, because it's like, oh, we don't want we have to pay for all these poor people's kids and food stamps and blah 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 and all this stuff. A lot of people are so against that for some
And
reason. I don't.
when you get really,
So
really high, and that really changes a
modern
lot
wage
because
slavery.
just think about it.
Exactly. It is
How
modern wage
Exactly,
slavery.
exactly,
And it's
and
something
that's
that
why
we
we
need
need to
to
establish
fix.
socialism.
I don't know, but
But at
I
the
don't
same time,
know.
that's
Huh.
delimiting. There's a lot of people that wouldn't work with. I do think there's just people who are biologically incompatible, and I don't think it works for everybody. I think it
How
works for
did
certain
it
kind of
turn into
people.
mass
I
murder?
think
Like
we need, and that's why we need a
No,
mixed
it did
system.
not. That's
when it comes
propaganda,
to
Tim.
Stallion, like when I think of
because
Tim, that's
Marxism, I think of
propaganda.
Stallion, and it turns into like
no, because it
genocide
comes
Let
and
me ask you
ethnic
this
cleansing.
ideologically
question:
How
How
did
motivated.
many
that
people
lead to
lost their
that?
lives to capitalism?
A lot
How
of
many
people
lost?
like to
Tim,
capitalism.
how many people lost their lives to capitalism?
A lot, because like we all know in the United States, people go over to
Mm-hmm.
invade these other countries for resources, right? And they're just over there killing people. And yeah, that's for capitalism. That's to fuel the
Yep.
economy and bring back
Yep.
resources. So yes, that's true too. So, but what about why did that happen in Marxism? If everybody's win-win, then why did everybody end up killing people and ethnic cleansing and all this
No,
crazy shit?
what
So
they're saying
what's up with
about
that?
Stalin's is it's largely propaganda. If you look at the record, again, Stalin's not perfect. No, Tim, Stalin was not a racist. He was not a womanizing
I think
degenerate.
he was gay, to
Stalin
be
did
honest
have
with you.
issues.
By Marx.
His issue was that he normalized the Zionist entity. That's his issue. But no, millions of people have lost their lives to capitalism. I look at Algeria under the French, Morocco under the French. You can look at Kenya under the English. Okay, India under the English. So you can see that capitalism has never worked for the global proletariat. And again,
I think they
when
both
people
have
bring up
flaws,
Stalin,
I've heard
ask
that.
them,
Oh, go
and
ahead.
that you need them both to take the two flaws out of them. You need to combine them to get rid of the flaws that they each have.
and
You
also
gotta.
Stalin was from
Mhm.
Georgia. He was from the country of Georgia. Stalin was called a quote Asiatic brute, post quote, by Trotsky. So again, within the Soviet Union, Stalin was from an oppressed nationality. Second of all, why do you think Black Americans who were fleeing the United States moved to the Soviet Union? Also, some of them moved to Cuba. So
Hmm.
again, debunked. Do you want to know
Hmm.
who was a bitter drunk, Tim? George W. Bush. That's who was.
Hmm. So
Tim, you're
hold
just
on. I
calling
don't
into
feel like.
propaganda.
But what? Okay. I don't feel. But wasn't there a lot of murdering, just like capitalism resulted in a lot of murdering and killing? So what? How did that
Didn't they
get
like?
there though?
Didn't
Like,
they like kill a lot of like Christians? They were anti-religion or something.
were they anti-religion? Was it
No.
anti-religion?
You know, a
No.
lot of Christians.
No,
I don't know. I
not
got.
Yes, they are.
religion. It was a multi-religious society. It was a multi-religious
So
society.
who
that-
destroyed
what's
it?
the
So who's doing all this?
Bolshevik
Who's
revolution?
doing all this propaganda?
What's the
Who's the one
Bolshevik
pushing the
revolution?
propaganda?
the
lead-
CIA and the U.S.
the
government
CIA.
is pushing
It's the
What's
U.S.
the
government.
Bolshevik? Okay.
So what's the
What's-
purpose? Like they don't want Marxism
They
because
don't
they want
want
to keep
so the
capitalism.
ruling class doesn't want the U.S. to build socialism. They
Yeah,
want
and I don't
to
either.
dumb you down, and they want you to stay in this capitalistic mind trip.
So I've heard from the right wing people that it's the Zionists, like you said, that are trying to push
Yeah.
for like Marxism. So
No,
what's
the
up with that?
Zionists,
Do you feel it?
the Zionists oppose Marxism. The Zionists benefit from capitalism. Look at Robert
Where
Kraft.
they are, but they want Marxism
Look
for
at
everybody else.
look at
It's for everybody else
Robert
they want it
Kraft,
for.
Look at Donald Trump. Look at Mike Pompeo. or if you look at Arthur Blank or Edan Ofer, right? Or if you look at Jair Bolsonaro, the former president of Brazil, who was a total criminal, the Zionists are pushing for capitalism. Anti-Zionists are pushing for socialism. So, no, Thunder, I did not hijack anything.
A little bit off topic. It's okay. I'm gonna let it just
She
Um,
asked
right.
me.
It's
Yo,
excuse
she
me,
okay.
asked me.
You
excuse
did
It's
me,
okay.
hijack it,
excuse me,
but
excuse me. Is it okay that we could return to the original topic?
Yeah, we could go back to the original topic. Let me see.
Yeah, we
But
can do
yeah,
that.
MC Chim said this. This is why that's true though. Like there's a lot of flaws in our system as
Exactly.
well. And it does
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's
it's
be
a
honest.
lot.
A lot of
It's a
people
lot.
say that they work 40 hours working at Dunkin' Donuts, but they think they that's gonna,
Yeah.
if it's low skilled labor, I mean, you're not going to get a lot of money and be able to quote unquote survive. You need to be highly
It's
skilled, and
still it's
if
people
you're
who are
gonna support,
educated too. No, because I remember
Exactly.
when I was like
well, everyone that I know
like
that has a degree is pretty much doing good. But it really depends on people making good decisions. Like you can't go to
you have
school
to
for
make the good
gender
decisions.
studies and think that you're gonna get paid. Like you gotta go for what's I think what it is
that's like a
people have been
lifestyle.
lied to through the educational system. Like, oh, you guys could go for criminal justice when you don't need that to become a police officer. Oh, go to gender studies instead of telling them to become a doctor, engineer, computer scientist. They're going for these like if you look at there's a guy on YouTube that talks about degrees, right?
Black
It's
women
like
the most.
I forgot his name, and he talked about like 40,000 people graduate with psychology degrees and 40,000 graduate with history degrees. They're graduating with degrees that are not going to give them work. So when they're complaining about not having a job, it's because they're not doing their research. And again, they're being lied to by these universities that are saying, hey, just do what you want. And that sounds
Capitalism.
good, but that's not what the economy needs.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is,
It's
but it's not what the
capitalism.
economy needs. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's about the universities exploit people because they want to make money. They want you to be in debt
Exactly.
forever, and that is an issue. That's why so many people are going to get these degrees. Nobody's
I
really.
love it that way.
We really need to build a system where we are
Two different
people are
companies.
getting educated in what we truly need. We need like the plumbers, electricians, the people working on road, like stuff that we need to like make society function. It's like people are not going for that because it's like
You're confusing
they're not
college.
feeling like they're making a lot of money. People want to go do things that they feel like will make them a lot of money, and they're not just oversaturated in these, and they're not getting jobs, right? And then in the other sectors where we need these type of things as a function of society, people are not being replaced. Like especially like within the next 10 years, all these people are retiring, and there's nobody to replace them. And it's just a
Exactly.
messed up system. It's a messed up system. We do have a little bit
And
of
then they
a
have to bring in immigrants
so
to replace
then they had to bring
population.
immigrants in.
Young
Exactly. We
immigrants.
got to bring the immigrants in and then to
Because
replace them
the
because
population is too old.
Mhm.
yeah, but we have to make it work for us somehow. Like this
No,
is our system
you,
how it
you
is right
can't.
now.
See, here's the thing: if you're part of the proletariat, you're part of the working class. You can't make
Hello.
capitalism work for you. It's
Hi
a
Al.
lose-lose situation. That's why we must
Hi, how are you?
develop Pan-American socialism.
I
How's
don't know.
everything?
Yeah, it's not for
We
me.
got to make something work. If we're going to build our
good.
own communities, we got to figure out something that's going to work because like,
Exactly.
the
We
system
must
at
work
large,
all throughout the
how
Americas,
What about national socialism?
and those
Just
of
like-
us that are from the African diaspora must work with people back on the continent. You know, we must do that. Lynn says I graduate next year. That's what's up.
What about national socialism?
Nope. Nope. National socialism is not socialism.
No. Isn't it just socialism but within
It
the
is
race?
not socialism. It is based off of capitalism.
But isn't it? Well, yes and no. But isn't it socialism but only within the race? Right.
No.
It's-
That's still capitalism. That still benefits capitalism.
but even these like
in the overall
everyday
system,
workers,
but within that
but
race,
no,
like
but
what they do with the socialism for their race, but they don't give socialism to the other. Like it's like only an in-group
even-
race thing. That's what
but
national
even
socialism is,
no,
right?
even these like everyday workers you see at Dunkin' Donuts and stuff
It's
like that.
racial
It's like
socialism, so it's only
you
for
need
your
those
race, but
people.
not for other
You
race.
still need those people. If I'm going to be a business owner, I need
Wait,
workers.
wait, wait, wait,
it's
wait,
like,
wait, 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 wait. Hold on
Why is it
here.
not valued? We don't value them in society. They say, oh, we need you to work for us. But at the same time, it's like you're not going to be valued. You're not going to be able to pay your rent. You're not going to. It is low skilled, but at the same time, we do need
Well,
those positions. They should be
okay.
able to.
I don't know
we
how
have
this. I don't know how this conversation. I don't know what the conversation was
I don't
like
even
before,
know.
but
They're out. I don't even
Yeah.
know. We're just
so
concerned.
let me
What else?
just since you seem to be talking about economics. Well, this is a long. This is.
I don't even know.
Thing to go
That's a long discussion.
let
I
me
don't.
let me just break down a little of this.
Mhm.
First of all, what people have to understand in this country, especially, but globally, there have been changes to the economy. So I'll be kind and I'll just go with the post World War II economy, right? Because that's a model that people are used to, because that's what they want. They compare things to the 50s and the 60s, right? The problem is this. First of all, tax rates were high on those who were earning certainly above $100,000, if not more, in the 50s and 60s. And they began to lower by the time Reagan got into office, especially with Reagan going into office in the 80s, right? So that was a boon to part of the boon to the American economy. You also had the fact that the U.S. came out of World War II relatively unscathed. They weren't bombed like a lot of Europe or Asia or parts of the world. So they still had their, not only their infrastructure intact, the physical plant intact, houses and other aspects of cities intact. They also had their economy intact for the most part. So they could be a dominant economy after World War II, right? That began to change with the 70s. And what happened in the 70s was, and this is my, and so I'll offer my standard analysis. Right? You probably won't hear in most other places, but it's mine. I cite three events as part of the change in the economy and how it's impacted this country. First is Nixon in 1971. Nixon in 1971 takes the U.S. off of the Bretton Woods system. The Bretton Woods system refers to Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, which is where a post-war conference was held that basically set sort of some of the economic systems that lasted from the end of the war until about the 70s or so. So what happened was that the US dollar became the benchmark for currency and set the currency rates. And what happened was that Nixon took that off because people could take dollars or get dollars and use them for gold. So they were trying to buy up gold or buy gold. The US wanted to supposedly protect its gold. So instead of allowing the dollar to be convertible to gold, Nixon said, no, we're taking it off the Bretton Woods system. Of course, the impact this had on the US dollar was that the dollar became free floating and currency became free floating because you don't have a strong currency that is tied to currency. So 1974, second aspect, you had what is known as the petrodollar deal. This is the US deal with Saudi Arabia. What happens is that the US and Saudi Arabia have this, I guess, relatively secret deal, although it's known now, where the US, where Saudi Arabia allows sale of oil through US dollars. So the dollar becomes the dominant currency in the world and has been since 74. Why is this important? Because the dollar was impacted. One of the impacts of the dollar was OPEC, right? In 1973, the OPEC, you had the war in 1973. I think it was the October War, Yom Kippur, but that also impacted because OPEC decided to go out and the Asians fighting Israel. So 1974, you had this deal between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, right? The dollar is tied to oil, which is why countries have to buy up dollars. The biggest export the U.S. has still is the dollar. Its currency, its treasuries. That's the biggest export that the U.S. has. So that's why the U.S. economy has managed to have some level of stability. The U.S. dollar has what is known as exorbitant privilege, right? The pound used to have it. The British pound used to have that. So the third aspect that I cite is the 1971 memo by Lewis Powell, who later became a Supreme Court justice, to the Chamber of Commerce. And what Powell's telling the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, man, you guys got to get organized. You have the civil rights movement, you have the feminist movement, the anti-war movement, all these social movements that are impacting business people got to get involved in politics. They set up PACs, political action committees. They funded politicians, and they became a kind of dominant force. They were setting up things like the business roundtable. So what you have in this economy is since the 70s, wages have not kept up with prices and costs, right?
Facts.
So
Facts.
wages have been outstripped by inflation, prices, and costs. That's part of the reason things are the way they are now. And it's gotten worse and worse in jobs because instead of 40-hour per week jobs, where people could get maybe not living wages, but something close to it, the job wages don't keep up with the rise in prices. So rents go up, wages don't. Or if they go up, it's maybe X amount of cents here. What is that? What and mortgages go up, right? You have other costs to go. Food costs go up. People see this now. The last couple of years, this is kind of a primer. You can see this with this economy, right? You've seen food prices shoot up. You've seen a gas and oil and energy prices go up. You've seen a run on certain products, like I believe, like formula ran out in certain parts of the United States,
Exactly.
and other things ran out, right? Because they impact the supply chain, right? And now you have a global supply trade, right? China and other places, as opposed to a supply chain that maybe was more domestic or domestically oriented, US oriented. So the main thing in terms of what you're talking about in terms of jobs and pay and all that is wages have not really kept up with prices and costs in this country since the 70s. And this is probably the major problem that people have, working people have, your average employee has, right? And also the increase for college graduates and those going to college in college loan pricing. College prices have gone up. University and colleges have gone up, right? And so the emphasis has been on loans as opposed to Pell Grants. With Pell Grants, if you get them, you don't need to pay them back. But loans, you do have to pay back. And unlike other forms of debt, you cannot write off college loans. You got to pay them or else.
Exactly.
So when you look at those factors, you can see economically, of course, with the Ukraine war and all that's going on economically and the rise of inflation, you can see why things haven't worked out in this country. Why you're having the problems employees, workers, average people have, right? Like right now, you're having this possible rail strike. Of course, Biden wants to clamp down on it because of the Railroad Workers Act, or the Railroad Act. But you're seeing the kind of economy that we're here. Now, I don't know how this movie review moved into an economic discussion.
Yeah,
It started because this is how it started for everybody. This is how it started. We were talking about what type of system would be best placed if we have, biracial, mulatto, mixed, if we have our own communities, what type of system in place would be work best for us. So that's how this whole conversation started.
Yeah.
So, but I think that let me address it to Tim real quick. America's falling apart. Let's be honest. Like, let's be honest. We have America's falling apart, baby. If you don't know, it's falling apart. Like it's falling apart right now. There's a lot of issues we have to address and face. Just like every other country in the world, they face their issues and problems. So we can talk about our own issues and problems without people talking about, oh, we're just privileged and we're just this. That's true. Of course it is. We have a lot of privilege. We do got to not take that for granted. We are a privileged community, a privileged country. Of course we are. But we do have a lot of problems and issues that we need to address and face as well, too. So just like everybody else.
But tying into
and so do some other first world countries like Germany. Germany's going through a lot of problems right now. Major economic
you could
problems.
be doing good one
as
day.
Are some of these other European
you could be doing good, and then the next thing you know, you're doing bad. So it's like that's the nature of things. There's Rome those empires are built, empires are destroyed. So we need to, if we want to keep ourselves going, we got to face these issues and try to come up with solutions for them. But none of us, we're just trying to talk. I don't know. None of us are in positions of power to actually change things. Are we voting for these type of things, or what are we doing here? So I don't know.
But to tie this into what we were talking about earlier, like it's cool to see representation, but if our representation isn't explicitly anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist, then it's not real representation. Like,
what?
You look at like someone like
they are not going to give us no type of representation like that. I don't think they're going to do all that. I don't think they're going to.
Well,
that's why we
that is true in certain parts of the country. That's true not only here, but also in parts of the globe. You've seen that happen in Africa, for
Socialism
example, in African nations. That's
would
why a lot
destroy
of
our
leaders
race.
were killed. That's why a lot of leaders were killed. People
Mm.
like Amilcar Cabral,
Lumumba
Stephen
also.
Biko, Patrice Lumumba.
Exactly.
That's why you have, and that's why you had, they were placed with these corrupt dictators and entities.
Exactly, because it's all about
So
the
yeah, when you talk about representation, oh, in African nations, it's certainly the case there.
Exactly.
But also
Exactly.
here too.
And here too, exactly, with Huey Newton, Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, right?
Oh, that's true.
Hampton,
Yep, that's
you
true.
know,
That's
we see
true.
the same thing. That's why they prop up people
Right.
like Obama, Kamala Harris, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, right? That's why
They
they prop them up.
They puppets.
You know?
They're trying to.
Yeah,
That's
you
that's
have a politician and
they use
celebrity, but
us.
yeah,
That's what I'm
I
saying. They
can't.
use
That's
us
yeah, I
to
can.
always push an agenda, right? That's what I'm saying. We are our
Exactly.
Because
identity
we don't
is
have our
always
own
being
group.
used by
We're
the
just a
left
tool.
to always
become
push
a
some
tool
type
for
of
both of them
agenda that is
sometimes.
not in our best
Even
interest.
on the right, sometimes they
That's
do use it
true.
to go after black people. Sometimes
They
It's deeper. Yeah,
always.
it's deeper than
give
just
them a
like
lot
a
of
kids
money.
movie. Like
They pay a lot.
representation is a lot deeper. We're always like every single type of representation that's popular, that's pushed in the mainstream is always being
Exactly.
used as some
So
type of agenda to push us into something that is not good for us. So that's
We're
the
exactly.
issue.
serving a
That's the
role in
problem.
another
So it's
culture.
something.
We're like
Exactly.
Basically, we don't
assimilated.
have our. Yeah, it's true. It's
We're
true.
assimilated.
Because like they don't like this
Yep.
Disney movie doesn't really represent us. You know, it doesn't represent multiracial people. You know, it doesn't. Just like the
No.
token multiracial politicians, whether they be AOC or someone like Raul Grijalva or
They never practice what they preach either. Like how they're always trying to
exactly.
push like white people. I hate white people. White people are the devil. White people. White people. But they sleep in
Well,
like
I
she
don't
got a white
really
boyfriend.
expect it. I
And,
I'm
mean,
like,
and
that's
they
they
don't
never
put
practice
the
what they
concept of
preach.
what Jose
It's kind of
Vasconcelos
like
called mestizaje. They don't.
I'm an old fashioned biracial. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s. So I never saw images of people like me, but I also never saw
mm,
negative stereotypes and archetypes of people
mm,
like me. And that's something I want to stress to people. I never saw bad representations of mixed race people. And I think
mm.
that's important because I'd rather there not be any representation than bad
Exactly.
representations, bad
So
archetypes,
true.
bad
So
stereotypes.
true.
But you
You're
look
better off without it, right? Without other people telling us like this is who you are and this is yeah.
Exactly.
I agree. Go ahead, hybrid. What did you say, hybrid? Go ahead.
Absolutely right.
But are you not more perceived as Middle Eastern, the Al show? Or people more like
North Africans. I mean,
North?
depends. It
No,
depends.
I didn't mean to. Did I say North Africans?
Uh,
Middle
North
Eastern, I said.
Africans we come in a variety of phenotypes.
that,
There are a variety of groups there.
that's stupid. I'm not going to respond to that.
Yeah, but if we look at you, let's be honest. Do you think you look half
Who,
black?
Al?
No, but
Yeah.
it's a different story.
What
but
does that
North
have
Africans
to
are from
do
the
with
continent
what
too,
we're
and there's a
discussing?
variety of
Go
phenotypes.
ahead.
You have Kabyle people from over by Algiers. You have Tuareg people, Mozambique people. You have all different types of people there,
Right.
and
That's
I
true.
think the United States should take their cues from North Africa and Latin
You got
America.
Morocco. I mean, you look
Exactly.
at the World Cup. They're
Morocco.
the toast of the World Cup right now
Yeah, exactly.
because they made it to the semifinals. I
Yep.
mean, whether you like that or not,
I'm a
that's
huge fan.
milestone. Like I said, I'm not into North Africa, but yeah, they're North Africans.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Hakimi's my favorite ball player right now, and I'm supporting Morocco. I have family from Morocco as well as Algeria. But yeah, I'm supporting Morocco 100%.
Oh,
Honestly. So I'm gonna
oh,
close out the
Algeria.
topic.
Well, that's an interesting
Give
play
him a lot
in
of
light of the revolution.
So here's my takeaway from this conversation. So representation, I'm not really caring. Honestly, it's like, okay, representation is cool. With or without it, we need to build a community. Okay, with or without
Mhm.
it, we're not gonna beg people to like, oh, please give us representations, and I don't
And
want to
we
do
are
all
our
that.
representation at the same time.
We are our
so
own representation. We
act
anybody
better.
could go on
Don't
social
embarrass
media.
us.
You could build your own representation.
Exactly.
Remember, when
You
you're
could build your own
embarrassing, you're embarrassing to all
representation.
of us.
Okay, we don't need to depend on Disney and these big corporations to do it. They're never gonna do it right.
Well,
Mhm.
Well, like I
And
said,
and
I
and
grew up in the 70s and 80s when there were no explicitly biracial characters in movies and TV shows. And I can tell you, it didn't make a bit of difference to me as a mixed race person because I didn't see negativity expressed. Now, I do feel sorry for like monoracial African
Cosby Show.
Americans because they dealt with negative images and stereotypes and archetypes for decades and decades, for at least a couple hundred years. And so they have it much harder in that respect compared to mixed race people. I
So,
mean, to be brutally
yeah,
honest.
for real.
And so I didn't have to deal with that. And I'd rather not deal with that. I'd rather, again, I'm not against mixed race characters in movies and TV shows. I want to make that clear. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, I'd rather see no mixed race characters than bad and horrible, cliched, stereotyped, archetyped mixed race characters.
Yeah, because I don't think
Not
we
in this
have
media
any
era, and not in
Well,
positive
I
this.
do want to.
stereotypes.
Well, we do want it to be a semblance of how we actually are. We do want it like part of the reasons
Hey.
why there are the stereotypes, is so people can. There are actually things people will think are familiar, that they're familiar with that thing. So you have to have some kind of recognition that they're even the same people.
I agree.
Yeah.
We do need to write our own
Not
stories.
really. It's
I
not
believe that we should write our
necessary.
own stories, you
We
know,
have
because
tropes. There are tropes of at least black, white,
Well,
biracial. There are certain tropes of us.
yeah, we have
Well,
some tropes.
yeah. Well, see, in literature, you
We
have
have
biracial people written, so it's a literary aspect, right?
the woman.
Some aspects in certain novels, like
women
Ella
have the
Larson's Passing, for
Isabel
example,
trope.
or what was it?
That's just one of
Kane, I think, maybe possibly Kane, if I'm not mistaken. So literary, in terms of novels, literature, there's that there. But in terms of movies and TV shows, not as much.
Exactly.
So I'm fine with biracial authors, and because I'm a writer, I'm fine with biracial authors and writers writing novels and writing work and histories of biracial people. That's what I'm more for. I'm more for the
history.
nonfiction, the
Yeah,
histories
I agree.
And the stuff about politics.
That's so much
that's
more
what I care
important.
about.
That is so much more important.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
get that down right first. Like the true history, the factual, like, yes, I totally agree with that. That's such a good point. And here's another thing. When it comes to, like, we do need that type of representation, but we do need to get the facts right. Here's the main issue that we should all be speaking up against. People trying to use our identity to push ideologies and agendas. That's what we need to, like, hey, no, let's not do this. If you're gonna actually represent us, actually try to do it right, and don't just try to use it.
The left
We're
is
being
very good.
used. That's
studying
that's
us.
my that we need to stand up against and be like, hey, we need to start, like, like Anthony said, calling something. We need to start just talking,
They
like,
put us in black groups, like Black Lives
something.
Matter
I don't know
stuff,
how.
like
I be tweeting people. I mean, I don't know what's a tweet gonna do, but I do be tweeting. I was like, I did tweet Disney. Like, no, you guys didn't do this right. So, but
Yeah.
Well,
I did
I'll give
tweet
you
them.
an
I don't know what that's
example.
gonna
When you talk
do.
about
We don't have that mass. We need that bundle of sticks, like
Right.
Jose said. We don't. That one
Right.
stick is gonna be
That's true.
overlooked, and that one tweet. But if it was like
It-
10,000 tweets, it would have had some power behind it. But
right.
yeah,
If we're gonna deal with movies and TV shows with biracial characters, it depends on the character. For example, there's a movie that's out called Chevalier, right? It's about Joseph Bologna,
oh yeah, I wanted
the
to see
first
that.
composer of African heritage in France, a composer, a musician, a swordsman. That's a biracial man.
Yeah.
His mother was from Guadeloupe. His mother was, I think, African, and he was born in Guadeloupe. Father was French. That's a story about a biracial person, and an outstanding one who almost died in the French Revolution, but an outstanding one. So if we want to talk about people who are biracial, I'm not into role models per se, but I am into stories about, biracial people that not only are true, but demonstrate our ability to navigate effectively in the society. Now, I don't know this movie, how good this movie is, or how bad it is, or what have you, but it is a biracial character. And this guy, like I said, is the real deal. Bologna was a talented
Oh, I didn't see
musician,
that.
composer, and swordsman. I mean, again, I like classical music. I haven't heard his stuff, but like I said, I like the fact that there's at least a movie about him out. So I'm
looking
saying,
forward to
okay,
that, yeah.
Exactly.
even
We
if
need to
it is
promote these movies.
distorted and they want to make him more of a black person, at least it's a biracial person. It's a
Exactly.
biracial person that's out there, historically valid. So I'm more than happy with that. That is what I'm interested in seeing. You have a model right there.
Absolutely. I
It
love
may not
that.
be perfect, but that's what I'm interested in seeing.
I love
Yeah.
that. We should promote that too. Like, Al, you're gonna like promote it. Like promote. I want to know more about it. We got to be the ones that are like, hey, let's promote this movie or this represent this book,
Exactly.
this. We
Well,
got to
well,
be the ones to
find
push
out
it
about this
in our
guy.
own
Number.
communities, right?
I promote finding out about the guy primarily.
Yeah,
The movie may be good,
exactly.
but find out about this guy, learn about him, and learn about. It's
What's his name?
important to
I
learn
tried to
about
look him up.
biracial people.
How do you spell his
Yeah.
name? What is his name?
Let me see. It's think Bouloggne.
Oh,
B.
Bologne. Joseph
Bologna.
Bologne.
Joseph Bologna. Okay, I got you.
Joseph
Right.
Bologne. Yeah.
Oh, I found him. Okay,
Right.
perfect. So
Je
I'm
parle
gonna
un peu de
research this
français.
guy.
Right.
Wow. And then when does this
Yeah.
movie come out?
My French isn't that good.
Hablo español también.
Oh, people.
Oh wow, multilingual. I love
people.
it. Okay,
Soy árabe, lakin mukatir.
I like it. Wow,
Yeah,
I need to learn
multilingual.
something other languages. But yeah, I'm gonna. When does that movie come out, Al?
I don't know when the date is. Because I don't know when the release date is. I'm
You
sorry.
gotta go.
My
Yeah, for
apologies.
real.
I don't keep up with movies as much anymore. So unfortunately, I don't know.
So
But
we got to make sure
but
that we're putting
right,
our money and attention into the right things because that's powerful, right?
right.
Attention and money speaks
But
more than
but
anything.
I
So
cite that
Mhm.
I cite that
mhm,
as a illustration of, since you're going to talk about movies and TV shows, what I would consider not a model, but at least a foundation for stuff in the future. I don't know if it's a
absolutely
good movie or not, but at least that kind of person. I go, Joseph Bologna, that's the kind of people we need to see in the screen, and that's what
love
we
it.
need to find out about.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited. I want to learn more about these. I think that should be more of a priority. Reclaiming our history. I think that
Mhm.
should be more of a priority in these spaces, and having that representation of these actual historical figures that were mulatto and that were,
Mhm.
did amazing, accomplished things. That will fill us with a sense of pride, and we do need that. We want to have that. We do want to reconnect with our history,
Well,
and I
it's
think we should.
interesting. Somebody has a comment here about Superfly, that was Ron O'Neill,
Superfly.
Black
Mhm.
exploitation.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing soft about that character because that character at the end of that movie has a gun on him and he walks away. Like he's like, he's just gonna do what he's gonna do. So there's
All
nothing
right.
soft about that character.
All right, I think we
There's
made some
nothing
good
soft
points
about that
tonight,
character.
guys. I loved it. I'm gonna let Jose go, and I'm gonna let everybody have like their closing thoughts. There's a lot to digest and think about here, and I think it was a good live. But go ahead, Jose. I'll let you. Let's all say our closing thoughts on this.
Okay. Well, I think what it would help if the mulattoes here and other mulattoes can share with everybody else, some of the achievements that they have, whether it be in theater, whether it be in the arts, whether it be in industry, whether it be in politics, whether it be in what have you. That will give the mulatto community a great deal of prestige and influence. I mean, when everything is said and done, um, the mulattoes must form their own community. They must, be like a family. They must support each other. They must try to get along with each other. And then, and then and only then will they have the true political clout and authority, and to be recognized as a separate entity. Because until that day comes, unfortunately, there's going to be people that's going to misrepresent yourselves and
Hmm.
use it for their own selfish whims. So it's very important that the mulattoes have their own community and have their own voice. And with
I
that, I
agree.
thank you very much for allowing me to be on your platform.
Have a good night. Okay. Anybody else got any closing thoughts before I close this out?
Well, I'm just gonna say this. Thank you for letting me up on here on the
Yeah, of
live
course.
stream. It's my first
Yeah,
time. I'm a big fan of your content, and I
appreciate
think
it. Thank you.
we have to create more biracial spaces, and then we also
Period.
have to look at the African diaspora from the big picture, from
Hmm.
the entire continent, from Tangier all the way down to the southern tip of South Africa. And we also have to look and make correct by multiracial and biracial representation,
Absolutely.
and one that actually represents the working class. And
Mhm.
that's what I hope to do. I hope to write a couple books about that. You
Awesome.
know? Yeah.
Thank you for coming here and sharing your thoughts. I appreciate you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right,
Yep.
Al. So you got any closing thoughts or anything?
Well, yeah, I would say in clothing. Closing. I would say in closing that it's good that there is some at least overt representation of biracial people in some movies and TV shows. It's something I haven't studied. I was on a panel which featured a lady who had written a couple books about, or a book, I think, about biracial actresses, which I thought was very good. I had not seen that, and I've read a lot of film books. So that was something I thought was a very good move. But also, I think what's important is that if we're going to have representation in films and TV, it's historical representation is important. We need to learn about the figures that trod the roads and the highways past, like Joseph Bologna, who was a mixed race man. I guess it would be mulatto. That was an insult in France during the, I think, 18th century or so, that he was alive. But people like him, and it's not just, the best of biracial people,
Mhm.
but we do want to see people in the history of this country and in other countries that were mixed race, and that did certain aspects, whether they did it in sports, whether they did it in music, whether they did it in literature, politics, what have you. We need a round panoply of people if we're going to see this in movies and TV shows. And I also promote literature, books, and primarily nonfiction, but also fiction as well. I think it's important that novels that have a realistic representation of the lives of mixed race people come out, and also more nonfiction, right? We need histories of mixed race people
Absolutely.
in this country. Like, I know there's a history of them in England, because I'm
Yep.
on a biracial group, England.
Oh.
But we need here biracial histories, larger ones, bigger ones, and to find out the history of mixed race people. So
Absolutely.
that's my 50 cents or dollar, however you want to do it.
$1 million. All right. It was so good. I love this conversation. Thank you guys. You guys have a wonderful night. I can't wait to do another live. Y'all, good night, okay?
You too.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.